this past Saturday night on HBO Boxing After Dark on the Guillermo Regandia vs. Jose Quebeco undercard, the Mandingo warrior James Kirkland returned to the ring after being out nearly 2 years. Kirkland faced 23-year-old New Jersey brawler Glen Tapia. Glen Tapia is going into this fight undefeated with the aspirations of beating his first big-named opponent, and having that big-name opponent on his resume would help propel him into boxing superstardom. This bout between two heavy-handed fighters did not disappoint. We now turn to the BoxingPulse.net's editor-in-chief Elias Vasquez Torres and the BoxingTribune.com Ruben Diaz. Guys, welcome again. Thank you for your time. This fight was described by Andre Ward, who was announcing it, as a, quote, war of attrition. Hollywood, will start with you. James Kirkland, how did he look in his return? And is this the James Kirkland of old?
James Kirkland's performance last night against Glen Tapia was a Kirkland-like performance. He kept the fight in close, had Tapia on the ropes, and he banged him out. Just like what he did against Angulo. That's the kind of fights that he likes to perform. So he did very well. He fought his fight. What can you say about that? I think Tapia went into this fight a little too early. He doesn't have that kind of power to stay in close. His best bet was a fight on the outside with his strong, powerful jab, but it just didn't happen. So Kirkland fought a tremendous fight.
Ruben, same question to you. What are your thoughts on the Glen Tapia versus James Kirkland bout? And do you think it was too soon for Glen Tapia to face a monster like James Kirkland in the ring?
My post-fight thoughts on James Kirkland versus Glen Tapia last night, which was a 6th-round TKO for James Kirkland. I thought it was a great all-action fight, all-out war. Tapia came out fast in the first part of the first round, first half of it, and was getting off first on Kirkland, but after the second half of the first round, it was pretty clear that Kirkland was going to be too much for Tapia. Tapia did his best that he can do, strong kid, warrior, but other than that, he had nothing for James, to hurt him, or, he stopped him in his tracks a few times, but other than that, it was just all James Kirkland. And I thought Kirkland was going to win, maybe not as easy, but I thought he was going to win going into the fight. And even before I knew that he was teaming up with Ann Wolfe, I just thought Kirkland was too much too soon for Tapia based on who he had fought before. But it was a great fight. Tapia fought back as best as he could, but he didn't have the firepower to match Kirkland at all, and even the firepower to keep him humble.
Elliot, back to you. James Kirkland was out for a long time. After the bout, he said he wanted a piece of Golden Boy Promotions superstar Saul Canelo Alvarez. Kirkland is with 50 Cent's SMS Promotions. Elliot, can this fight even happen?
It was his first fight in 21 months. So, to be honest with you, it looked like he never was out that long. He looked good in there, and this fight could possibly set him up for a championship fight. But that's where it gets tricky, because a lot of people want him to fight Canelo, but Canelo's with Golden Boy, and the IBF champion at 154 is Carlos Molina, who's also a Golden Boy. So let's remember, the reason why Kirkland sat out for 21 months was for he can get out of his contract with Golden Boy. So I don't think that they will put him in with those two fighters after all that they went through with Kirkland.
Okay, no Canelo. Then who else is out there? Who else is an option for James Kirkland in a fight? Any champions?
And there's 3 more belts. And 2 of them, the pound-for-pound king holds them, and that's Floyd Mayweather. I think that Mayweather would rather vacate those belts before facing anybody at 154. I'm not saying that he is running away from Kirkland. It's just not in his best interest to fight Kirkland right now when he can make money fighting someone else like Danny Garcia or even Amir Khan. So that leaves us with Demetrius Andretti, who is the WBO champion at 154. that's probably his best bet right there. Andretti has no ties with Golden Boy. He's actually with Star Boxing, and that's a fight that can be made with Kirkland.
Back to you, Ruben. Much was said going into the 6th round of this bout. As a matter of fact, Glen Tapia's corner has come under fire for even letting this fight go so far. Also, the referee in this fight, Steve Smoger, has come under fire for the same reason, for letting this fight go on for so long and allowing, some say, for letting James Kirkland land that final KO shot on Glen Tapia. That shot, many say, may have ruined Glen Tapia's young career. Your thoughts?
And I think Steve Smoger stopped the fight at the right time, and there was a punch that landed while Steve was trying to stop it, that left hook, but Kirkland was in the process and sequence of throwing punches, so it wasn't, I don't think it was done intentionally. It was a good stoppage, but I also believe his corner should have stopped it. Tapia's corner should have stopped it after the 5th round. From the 3rd to the 5th round, his body language just didn't show me much that he was in the fight or had anything to win the fight. And his corner didn't have a plan B for him, and they seemed very amateurish last night, and we'll see what happens, how Glenn comes back. But this was really a great performance by James Kirkland. You know, his style is the same, but he looked more refreshed and more focused, and that's probably due to training again with Ann Wolf.
Eliud, back to you, same question. Your thoughts on Tapia's corner and referee Steve Smoger. Your thoughts on how they performed in this bout.
Referee Steve Smoger did a wonderful job in the James Kirkland-Glen Tapia fight. He stopped the fight right when it needed to be stopped. There's been a blame game going around saying that it should have been stopped earlier by Steve Smoger. But just remember that the ringside doctor was in Tapia's corner and between 2 rounds and rounds 4 and 5, and asking him if he was okay, and his corner totally ignored that. They were just shoving instructions to Tapia's face, and they should have been looking out for their fighter. And Steve Smoger was there all the way, talking with the doctor. So I'm sure if the ringside doctor would have said something to Steve about him stopping it, there's no doubt in my mind that Steve Smoger would have halted the bout. But it didn't happen that way. And he stopped it correctly. Smoger's known for letting the fighters fight, as they say. He's never in the action when the fighters are fighting, and he tries to break them up as soon as possible. Sometimes he doesn't even break them up. He just tells them to break the clinches on themselves, or he'll just tap the gloves. One of the best referees out there. I don't know. I think it's insane for people to blame Steve Smoger.
All right, time to close this out, Eliud. We will ask you, Ann Wolf and James Kirkland, this matchup of trainer and fighter is one of the best that I've seen personally in boxing. Your thoughts on them being back together?
Make no mistake, Ann Wolf put a fire under Kirkland. She's done that his last 2 fights, even though they were almost 2 years apart. They just better stay together this time for Kirkland's sake, not Ann Wolf. Ann Wolf could find other fighters to train. She does that now. She trains amateur fighters and whatnot. So his only loss, Kirkland's only loss, was when he was without Wolf in her corner. So hopefully that they patch things up pretty well, and Kirkland could resume his career. And, he's only 29 years old, so, he could still do a few things. But, the time is ticking on Kirkland. Just remember, he's had like 3 interruptions in his career. 2 of them for incarcerations, and then 1 of them because he wanted to get out his contract with Golden Boy. So let's just see what happens in the next 6 months or so.